Welcome to the podcast today. I'm joined by a special guest, Hannah Hart, an author, speaker, and advocate based in Orlando, Florida. Hannah released her debut book, The Ugly Side of the F Word, in October 2024, Exploration of Failure, what it truly means, how it shapes us, and how we can embrace it as part of our growth. Through her work, she challenges the negative stigma surrounding failure and encourages readers to turn setbacks into stepping stones. Beyond her writing, Hannah is deeply involved in helping others navigate personal and professional challenges, offering insights through her platforms and speaking engagements. You can find more about her work at byhcon.com and the ugly side of the F word.com. Hannah, welcome to the show. I'm excited to dive into your journey and the inspiration behind your first book.
Well, I'm so happy to be here today with you, Jolene. My name is Hannah Hart. I am a first-time self-published author. Back in fall of 2024, I released the book, The Ugly Side of the F Word, and it really speaks to helping women and understanding where we've been in the past and where we should be heading in the future to not only give ourselves permissions to put ourselves first in life and in work careers, but to really ignore the past messages of society that have told us that we have to do it all to be successful. So I'm really excited about sharing these messages with other women as they're on their career journeys to help them have better work-life balance and overall mental and physical health.
Excellent. Okay. And this is traditionally published or self-published or a hybrid?
It was self-published. However, I did hire a professional editing team as well as an agent to help me get the book launched. And she has successfully been able to get me up on Barnes & Noble, at least online so far. So that's been really exciting. And I'm also available through Ingram Spark, which is where most major booksellers and distributors purchase their books from. So it's available in many different facets.
Do you have any writing projects you would like to try in the future?
Well, that is a to be determined answer. So this was my first journey in authoring a full book, and it's been interesting. I have authored scholarly journals and articles that have been published in the past for my career. You would say that my traditional career historically has been focused on not only environmental science, but more recently in the past 5 years as a scientist and program manager helping to prepare communities for climate change. So extra excited about the conference's theme this year. Yeah. But there are certainly some other topics that I think would be helpful to women as they navigate not only their career journeys, which was what this book was focused on, but possibly another book coming in the future to help women navigate their first time perhaps having a child. I think that might be a topic I could share about.
Do you have experience in that area, I take it?
Yes, I do. I have one son. He is 13 currently. And at the time was really frustrated because I experienced a very difficult birth to get him into the world after having a pretty normal pregnancy. But hindsight's always 2020. And I do believe that sometimes we go through life experiences to help others in the future and things do work together for good. So I would love to help other women prepare for their first child, perhaps with a little bit different mindset than what you hear sometimes in traditional medicine and as you're preparing with traditional medical care.
Okay. So have you found that you have to, these days, especially women, have to advocate for themselves, not only in work environments, but in the health environment as well?
Absolutely. And unfortunately, statistics show us that advocacy is even harder sometimes for women of color. So while I feel very blessed and fortunate to be in a day and age where we are allowed legally to advocate for ourselves, and that there are certainly a lot of federal and state regulations that prevent discrimination, There's still a lot of work to do, and we still have a way to go as far as making sure that we have equitable work environments both for women and men.
Okay. With all the changes in the politics recently and the very disappointing results that we've gotten so far, are you worried about your own well-being and those of your female friends and family members in the future?
So, one of the things I talk about in the book is ridding your life as much as feasibly possible with worry. I think that worry is a dangerous behavior to focus on in our lives. And while we need to be cautious and prepared, the old Boy Scout motto, right? Always be prepared. I think that, and I know that when I have focused on worries and things to possibly come that are outside my circle of influence, I waste time on and energy on efforts that I could be focusing on in avenues where I do have control. So I try really hard to focus on the positive, and it doesn't always work, right? No one's perfect, and I let my thoughts spin out of control just like any other person does occasionally. But I really have been trying to focus, especially after authoring this book. If I'm going to write about it, I better walk the walk, right?
Mm.
And it's been a really helpful journey, not only to me, but hopefully for other women to redirect their energy when that worry starts to come into place. I hope that answered your question.
Mostly. Um, are there any resources that women can look towards to help them navigate?
Yes, it depends on whether or not the individual reader is focused on both mental and physical health, but as we all know, most people are. But I believe that there are a number of resources, both physically and mentally, that one can turn to. I am personally a believer in the Christian faith, and I have many friends who have other faiths, such as I have a friend that's Hindu, I have a friend that's Muslim, I have several friends who are Jewish, and they repeatedly have told me that when they focus, meditate, and pray, there is a sense of peace for them. And I will attest personally for myself that as a scientist, I cannot explain it, but there is something about mind, body, and spirit that I profoundly believe is connected. And so when we pray and meditate and reflect calmly on our thoughts daily, I truly believe that is a good tool to have in your toolbox. Now, having said that, I also have friends who are atheists.
Mm.
And so by no means do I feel like that is the only tool in the toolbox that can be used to help reduce worry and fear. For example, studies have shown that practice of traditional hatha yoga and other forms of meditation and mindfulness, you may be familiar with that practice, have also shown, especially in the form of combining it with physical exercise, such as Pilates, something calm for the body, nothing too rigorous, has also shown to be extremely effective for not only reducing stress and anxiety, but also for reducing worry and fear, it re-entering into your head. There are also some really good books out there. I touch upon this in my book, but there are also some really good books out there that talk to women specifically about the lies that we tell ourselves and why we self talk negatively to ourselves more on average than men. And so I would encourage women to, there are a few out there that I personally like. One's called Me, Myself, and Lies. I think that practicing using the tool of practicing positive self talk, it takes a while to get out of that habit, but that is absolutely another practice that I encourage myself and other women to take on. So, those are just a few tools that I've used and resources that I would recommend to any woman who may ask me that same question.
Okay. And are you on social media?
I am on social media. I have been navigating social media a little more lightly recently. I have a page on Facebook, a professional page for the book. I have a page through Instagram, MS Girl at MS Girl Author. And then I also have a LinkedIn page, which I use both for my professional consulting career with climate change, and also I use it as well to share some pieces and parts out of the book occasionally as well as they relate to work-life balance.
Do you feel that social media can help women connect to other women in similar situations and gain more knowledge?
Absolutely. One of the additional reasons I recently joined social media, not only to promote the book, but I read a book regarding keeping your child safe online as my child is entering the teenage years. We've just recently, in eighth grade, we decided to let him get a smartphone. He's still not able to create social media accounts, but we know that's coming, and we are going to allow him to join social media in ninth grade. One of the things the book recommends that you do is learn social media better than your child so that you can be online and understand where and how he or she is going. So I think that's a great piece of advice. And I know your question centered more around to other women helping each other. But to me, that's one avenue where women can not only educate themselves, but help each other. If I saw one of my son's friends online and notice something, I may be able to reach out to another mother who may not be on social media and help her know what's going on. I also believe social media is a powerful tool for quickly linking up resources. So, for example, the Orlando Mom Collective put out a special needs group a couple of years ago. It's a subgroup of the Orlando Mom Collective, and one of the mothers joined recently who's moving from Indiana to Florida with a special needs child. My son has dyslexia. So within 30 seconds, I was able to share with her a couple of resources that I knew were here in Florida. And it didn't take me more than a half a minute to do that. So there are many ways I believe social media can help women not only connect, but thrive both in the workplace and at home.
Okay. I've been enjoying the TikTok
Mm-hmm,
and connecting to authors, mostly women authors, but some
mm-hmm,
around the world,
mm-hmm.
and learning that, hey, we're all just people and we
That's
all
right.
have similar problems,
That's
and
right.
they might have unique perspectives and solutions that I hadn't thought about. And that's a way for not to feel quite alone in the world if you
Right.
have a good support system at home or whatever. As you get older, you get more and more isolated. So it's nice to reach out.
It is.
So let's grab my 300 author questions here. I don't ask this very often, but do you have a writing software that you used for your project? And why did you choose that particular one?
So when I went and approached the professional editors that I worked with, they did request that I used Microsoft Word. That's the format that they work in, and that worked for me too. I already had a package purchased and was able to use that. I also used Grammarly. I think Grammarly is a great tool. It is much better, in my opinion, about not changing the manner in which you want to communicate something, but just giving you a little nudge here and there to say, hey, do you really want to communicate that phrase that way? So I would say those were the two primary softwares I used. For design of the cover and other things associated with the book, there were a few other types of software, but primarily for the writing, it was Word and Grammarly.
Okay. So did you create your own book cover or did you hire somebody?
Editing team and the book agent team some ideas, and I gave them what I liked and what I didn't like. Gave them three examples of what I liked and three examples of what I didn't like. So I had a strong influence on the design cover, but ultimately they took those concept ideas and developed one for me.
Who do you trust for objective and constructive criticism of your work?
So first and foremost, I would actually say my spouse and life partner, David. He is an extremely strong writer, and he was actually the first person that read through the entirety of all the chapters that I gave to the professional editing team. And as any good life partner would do, they will give you the good, the bad, and the ugly truth, right? But I love that about him. I mean, that's one of the things I really love about my spouse is that he is brutally honest with me and always lets me know if something is amazing or something really needs some more work. So he was the first person that I trusted with the initial draft.
Mm. Okay. Well, you said your husband's a writer. Is there any other family members that have published books or writings?
My mother is not a published author, but she was a school teacher for over 30 years. And so I sent the first couple of chapters to her and then some small excerpts from other chapters for her to read because not only do I know that she has writing skills and grammar, has a lot stronger background having taught basics of grammar repetitively for several years. I wanted her perspective and also from her demographic and her age group, what she thought about that. So she was another trusted reviewer throughout the process. My sister, even though she doesn't write a lot for her professional career. And then last but not least, a couple of women, especially one or two attorneys who obviously have to write a lot in their daily jobs that are also friends. I sent some of the pieces over to them to review.
Okay. So what kind of books do you like to read for enjoyment?
When I was younger, I really enjoyed fiction. And as I've gotten older, I've I wouldn't say I've lost my passion for reading fiction, but it's just not as enjoyable to me anymore. I have read several self-help book category or a memoir or a biography of someone who's either had adversarial circumstances in life and overcome them or really worked through challenges in their own life. And then I also really enjoy reading about up and coming new findings and discoveries in the world of science. As a
Mhm.
scientist, of course, I enjoy reading and understanding new discoveries in that realm.
Yes, yes, I can scroll through YouTube and watch all these astronomy and physics and how to do things videos.
Hmm.
I like those a lot. There's a debate among readers that audiobooks are not real books, but or it's not real reading, which I totally disagree with. As a self-help kind of person that you like that kind of stuff, do you read them, or is it better for you to read them to understand them, or do you like to listen as you're doing other stuff?
I think it depends on the situation I'm in. So, for example, if I'm taking a day just to myself, by myself, maybe I'm going to get a massage later in the day and I want to go get away at a park before I go do that, I'll take the book with me if it's a quiet setting and read to myself. But if I know I'm going on a trip, sometimes for me, I really do enjoy listening through audiobooks. There's one that I can think of written by Trevor Noah called Born a Crime, and he self recorded all of his chapters. And I think in doing that, or I know in doing that, he really was able to emphasize the phrases and certain sections of the book like no other could.
Right.
I laughed, I cried. It was just one of the most excellent memoirs and reflective types of autobiographies that I'd ever listened to on tape. So I'd argue that sometimes a book may be better listened to, especially if the author recorded their own voice than maybe reading it. You might get more out of their perspective.
Yeah. I think Samuel Clemens would have really done an excellent job uh,
Hmm.
re reading his own stuff to
Hmm.
people. Uh, that's just Sounds like a lot of fun.
Mhm.
Do you use your local libraries and check out ebooks on a regular basis or occasionally or ever?
I have in the past. So this past fall, unfortunately, 3 days after the official first launch, I was hit in a major car collision. I was rear-ended on an interstate. And so I've had another unexpected journey of slowing down a bit and working less hours for the last 4 months almost. So my time outside of my reduced work schedule right now has really been focused on healing myself. And so I've been listening to some more podcasts, I'd say, recently than going to the library or running to places. And our library, I'm sure other libraries throughout Florida are like this too. They have subscriptions on through your phone where you can just download audio and podcasts. Plus, I've subscribed for Spotify too recently. So that's where I've been getting some of my content. But historically, yes, I've gone to the library a lot.
Good, because they're still relevant today.
Absolutely. I just went to go visit Rollins Library. I just learned recently that it's open to the public. I live near Winter Park.
Cool.
And so I think it's fun to go check out new libraries too.
Oh, absolutely. Mom and I, we did the RVing thing in Florida
Mhm.
for a year, work camping. And if you're work camping in the county, the libraries generally will give you a free library card for your time being there.
Mhm.
So we collected about 8 or 9 different library cards.
It's awesome.
All right. What does literary success mean to you? How do you picture it or describe it to yourself?
Well, first and foremost, I believe that literary success means that you've been able to express your message or the message of your characters, if you are writing fiction, effectively across to the readers so that it sparks some form of an emotion. And the reason I say that is because I have recently had some readers give me personal feedback. And I too have experienced emotion when I've read other authors' books or listened, as I mentioned earlier. And even if that emotion is a negative emotion, you might say to yourself, I don't know if I really liked that chapter, or it's still an emotion. And I think anytime an artist of any form can spark a true emotion and a reaction and make people think about something perhaps they haven't considered before, that's success to me.
Very cool. All righty. Is there any advice that you would give to a first-time writer of any genre that you found in your own journey that might be helpful, like the top 2 tips that you'd like to share?
So, top two tips I would say is that if there is any way you can scrape together some money, and even if you have to save for a couple of years, which is what I did to bankroll and cash flow a professional editor, it really mitigated a lot of the stress that I was anticipating having to go through in the final stages of laying out the book, laying out the contents, and laying out the final design, especially in this world today, if you're going to self publish.
Mhm.
It's not as bad as I thought it would be. It's not extremely cheap. So I ended up spending around 7,000 total. But I really just put aside little by little money for a few years and got to that point. And I'm so glad I did that. It really was made the last time when you're weary from finishing writing, you're kind of spent from finishing all those last pieces. It really helped to finish out the process, finish strong. So that would be the first tip. The second tip I would say is if you do hire an editor and they want to edit a part or a piece that you feel strongly about, stand up for yourself and say, no, that's got to stay in, or that's got to be worded this way. At first, I wouldn't say intimidated is the right word, but I questioned whether I should start questioning an editor what was so good about it, I hired Aaron and said, no, question me. If you don't like something I've given to you, I need to know that. So that was actually good advice that she gave back to me, or feedback. I'm really glad I kept some things specifically the way I did.
You have to advocate for yourself.
Absolutely.
All right, Miss Hannah, thank you so much for being my guest.
Absolutely.
We want to thank all the viewers out there and listeners to Jolene's Books and Writers Talk, sponsored by Southern Dragon Publishing. If you would like to be a guest on our podcast, you are welcome to visit the southerndragon.com website. There is a link. Fill out the online application, schedule your Zoom session, and we will get you taken care of as quickly as possible. Have a great day.